Hello everybody. I would really like to title this particular video, The Worth of the Sun. Now, the irony is that as worthwhile and as coveted as a sun should be, quite quite often it is quite the opposite. A person who is destined for sonship can very often be tricked or killed or sabotaged or all kinds of different things. And the second psalm, what we are actually seeing is that humanity has an actual conspiracy against the sons of God. When we see the description of Satan, it is also surpassing the sons of God. So I see the sons of God as particular chosen individuals that God has called or chosen to basically make it to that first resurrection, which I've spoken about before and is a very special place with God, but it's also a special connection with the people that you are surrounded with. So sonship is incredibly important, and as I said, as irony would say it, a son is the answer for everything that mankind is really longing for and really wishing for. So, for example, you could find in the most debauched person a sincere, true desire to try to make it to the first resurrection, to basically make it to heaven. But a debauched person may not necessarily want to submit themselves to God or His ways, and so they try to find all sorts of sneaky ways. And one of those sneaky ways is to try to find a woman who is a son to attach themselves to. But usually they are so violent against a woman who has the destiny to be a son. They're not usually like Uriah, that favors them and cuddles them and loves them. Usually somebody who is more on the debauched side, or more of a Gentile, you could say, less inclined to do things God's way. Those are people who are extremely abusive to women who has a destiny towards heaven, which is ironic because the whole reason why they're wanting to attach themselves is to try to get to heaven. But the abuse comes when they are trying to make it to heaven, but they're trying to make it without the forgiveness and the grace and the mercy of Jesus Christ. So in the second psalm, we definitely see that there are conspiracies in the hearts of kings and judges and people. They rage against the sons of God. And really the reason being is the same reason that they gave Jesus Christ when they were crucifying Him, which is they are saying, we will not have this man rule over us. So when a person is going towards sonship, the people around them, if they were smart, they would say, hey, this is our ticket to heaven. We will love this person and support them and try to help mold them as well to be the kind of leader that God is calling a son to be, because a son is a person who is being called by Jesus Christ to rule and reign with Him in heaven. And so if a people are smart, they would just be like, hey, we're just going to love this person, not in an idolatrous or bad way, but in a way that is definitely respectful and definitely showing a tremendous amount of appreciation, because that is the way you take part in their inheritance, and their inheritance is basically to rule and reign with Jesus Christ. So if you were smart, you would support an individual like that with everything that you absolutely have. But unfortunately, if the people are incredibly rebellious and incredibly bent on trying to grab power for themselves and trying to usurp the authority of a son and so on and so forth, that sort of instinct, all that rebellion and sin and ambition and pride and arrogancy is working in them to basically do whatever they can to take the sun in their midst down. And if the people are bad enough and they accomplish this, then they all die in the wilderness like the people of Israel, and they never make it to the promised land. And so you can see this is counterproductive. But sin is irrational. There's no rationality behind it. And if there is something that I can say about America, it is that there is still a genuine appreciation for sons. There are a tremendous amount of people who are sons, who are heading towards sonship, and they are the most beautiful individuals you could possibly ever find. They are angels on this earth. They're just really, really precious people. And so, of course, I think America is doing a lot better than even sometimes people think, because there is something in America that really accepts sons. If you go around the entire world, you can find entire nations who actually are in particular fight or rebellion against sonship. And there are very specific things that you can find in a culture that really has a sort of a hate relationship with sons. And you can also see that very often when a country has a very, very special missionary or produces a son, I'm thinking about the pineapple story, where the man was originally Dutch. He went off and really was a missionary in, I can't remember where it was, but it was the pineapple story. And, now he lives in America. Richard Wurmbrand, after he fulfilled his ministry in Romania, and after he'd been tortured for such a long time, eventually he retired in America. His protege, Joseph Son, who also took part in basically bringing down the communist government in Romania, he retired in America. So we see all these missionaries from all around the world who eventually find their retirement and their place of peace and rest in America. And that is because I believe that for all the faults and flaws that America has, we have a genuine appreciation for the sons of God. And there are entire nations that really truly hate the sons of God, and in their scream to, we will not have this man rule over us, if God does not put them in America, then they will end up in prison or they will end up dead. So this is a very, very true phenomenon. And it's, like I said, it's one of the most tragic things in the world, because ultimately we are all wanting to go to heaven. And ultimately, like I said, even the most debauched people are trying to hook themselves up with the people of God because they have a genuine desire to make it to heaven. But they don't understand that it takes submission to Jesus. And that doesn't mean like all these rules and regulations. It really just means that when God tells you to forgive somebody, he means it. And that really means that, if you've done something wrong, you make it right. And that is the most wonderful way of living. But people refuse. And, and in so doing, they're literally trying to drag every person in their midst down to hell with them. But their special target will always be the son, whoever it is that is heading towards sonship or is actually a literal son. So these are very, very serious things. And, for all of the sons who are out there, we should really be in it together. We should really be fighting for each other, because our genuine desire should be the glory of God. And the glory of God will always come when God's word is fulfilled, when his promises come to be, when what he says will happen, happens. It is the disgrace of God when somehow something happens and those promises falter and fail. So people who are trying to subvert these promises or keep them from happening out of jealousy or competition, they are actually in rebellion against God, against his authority, and they are literally trying to disgrace the name of God. And that is very sad, especially if that is behavior coming from somebody who is destined to be a son.